Hey there, so we're taking a look at Palworld running on the AMD Ryzen 7 7840HS. That is a Zen 4 based 8-core 16-thread APU, and that is rocking the Radeon 780M graphics. All of this is running, of course, on the Minisforum UM780 XTX. This mini PC out of the box in its high performance setting will give you a TDP of 70 watts. This is excessive. Really, you don't need this much to get the maximum performance out of this chip, really. But unfortunately, even with such a high TDP, which we are actually utilizing here, the performance isn't incredible. We are, of course, running this at 1080p with the lowest in-game graphics settings. Unfortunately, the game does not have built-in any FSR support. It does have DLSS, but of course, if you are on an AMD system or an Intel system, you're pretty much out of luck there. But at the full 1080p resolution, the level of performance that we're getting here isn't a 60 FPS average, but it's still a very, very rock solid FPS, especially considering that our 1% lows for the most part do stay relatively close to the average, but it really depends on what areas you're in. Obviously, if you're in your base and you have all of your different pals around doing a whole lot of automated work, then your performance is going to take a pretty noticeable hit, but also it's those moments where the performance doesn't really matter all that much. When you're out adventuring in the open world, the performance is going to at least be consistent for the most part. Again, certain areas will end up triggering some issues, but for the most part, everything is still playable. It's just not perfect. Now, of course, we can actually inject FSR into the game itself. AMD actually even has a way of doing this built into their driver. It just doesn't actually work well with Palworld here because of the way that you need to be in full screen mode to get it to work. But if you go into full screen mode in Palworld, it immediately just uses your desktop resolution and it won't let you drop it down, which is how you're supposed to use AMD's built-in FSR. So if we use something like the lossless scaling utility that you can buy on Steam, this lets you inject FSR into games very, very easily. And if we do that and drop the resolution down to 720p, we can see what the performance boost is actually going to be like. And doing that actually netted us a pretty massive increase in terms of performance. Here I am in the main base where me and my friends have been playing on, and we have all kinds of pals running around. They're all doing a bunch of work. Of course, right now they're all just sleeping, but still there's a lot of entities around. There's a lot of things happening, and the performance is still very consistent, very, very smooth. We're now at an above 60 FPS average, and no matter what, as you're exploring through the open world, you're actually going to have some great performance. If you start doing dungeons, everything's going to be really great. Visually speaking, you do take a hit in terms of visual quality because, of course, we are using 720p and just upscaling that with FSR. And FSR 1.0, which is the version that we're using here, really ends up having some quality issues, especially with the lower resolutions. It's essentially just a filter at the end of the day, so it can only do so much when it comes to image reconstruction. Still, I think when it comes to the overall playability of the game, considering that it isn't the most visually appealing game anyway, I think that the sacrifice is kind of worth it here. More than likely, over time as you're playing, you're going to realize that the performance increase is going to be significantly better than whatever visual quality difference was going to be had here. Really, I'm actually very happy with how FSR ended up working with this, and I'm very confused why the developers haven't implemented this into the game itself. If they could get FSR 2.0 or any of the different versions of FSR 2, I guess, since there's like version 2.2 and stuff like that, if they could just get any version of FSR 2 into this, I'd be so happy. But until then, using a tool like this or like Magpie, which is free, you can get yourself a nice little boost in performance here. So definitely check it out.